In this lecture, we are going to check out the various methods which we guys can make use of for making this beautiful tennis game more interactive and interesting for the user. So the first thing that we guys can do is we can add a sound to this game. Now how can we add a sound? We can make use of this beautiful play sound block available to us in the toolbox of this Gamelab. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add this play sound block with this if loop and with this if loop which I have defined for the collisions between the racket and the ball. So let's pick it and drop it over here inside this if loop. Now let's hit this drop down over here. So this is the option you're going to come across. When you hit this choose option, you're going to get redirected on this sounds library of Gamelab. Now from here you can select a relevant sound. So I'm going to come inside this hits group. Okay, let's go for this one. Fine. So I am done with adding a sound to this if loop. Now whenever this player one's racket will touch the ball, we will be able to hear this sound. Let's check it out. Okay, so we are able to hear it, right? Likewise, if you want to hear the sound at the time when the ball hits this player 2's racket, so what you can do, you just have to copy this play sound block from here. Let's convert it into text-based coding and let's come on this if loop which we have defined for the collision between player 2's racket and ball. And here inside this if loop, I am going to paste that copied code. Let's run this game and check out whether we'll be able to hear the sound when the ball will touch player 2's racket. Okay. Okay, so I'm able to hear the sound, right? It is perfectly fine. Okay, now let's make it more interesting. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace these rackets with some players. How can we do that? So let's come on Google and search for some relevant sprites. So when you write down player with racket clip art, automatically these are some of the beautiful images you are going to come across. Fine. Now I'm going to make use of this image for player 1 and this one for player 2. So what we have to do, we just have to right click on this image. Automatically this cascading menu is going to appear like this. Let's hit this copy image option for copying this image. Let's come back on this Gamelab and in this animation workspace. Now we are going to add that copied image in this animation workspace of Gamelab. So for doing that, we just have to hit this new animation tab over here. And this is what we are going to come across, this animation library of Gamelab. And from here, we have to select this draw your own option. So here we can paste the copied image just by pressing Ctrl and V together. So that's what we are going to see over here, right? Otherwise, we can copy this second image also. Let's come on this Gamelab and here I am going to again hit this new animation tab. Let's set this draw your own option again and here I am going to press Ctrl and V together for pasting that copied image. So this is how you can paste the copied image in this animation workspace. Let's now come on this first image and start removing this unwanted white background. So for doing that, what we can do, we can make use of this eraser tool and then let's select this option and start rubbing the background. Why we are removing this white background? We don't want to see this white background getting reflected in the game with this sprite. Okay, so I'm done with removing the background of this image. Let's make use of this rectangle tool in order to draw the strings of this of the racket of this player. That is perfectly fine. Let's come on this second image and start removing the background of this one too. We are going to follow the same process. So this is the eraser tool I am going to make use of for removing the background of this image also. Okay, you can make use of this selection tool or rectangle selection tool also, or you can go for this lasso selection tool also. What you have to do, just have to select the part, the background of which you want to remove. This is the way you can do it, and then you have to press delete key. Automatically whatever part you have selected, it is going to get eliminated. So I'm done with removing the white background completely, as you can see. Right, now we are going to rename them. I am deleting this player one's image, and I'm going to rename this sprite to player 1. Okay, and I am deleting this player 2's racket from here. I am going to rename this sprite to player 2. Let's now come on this coding window and see what is the output we are going to get. So when you will run this code, this is what you will get. So the size of the players are pretty big. So we need to scale the size of both the players down. How can we do that? We need to come up over here, and just below the code which we have defined for accessing players 1 sprite on this background, we can define this sprite.scale block, and here we need to replace this sprite with player 1. Let's scale it down to 0.3. Let's see what is the output we are going to get. Okay, so this is player 1 which you're seeing over here. Likewise, if you want to scale down the size of player 2, we can copy this code and put it just below the code which we guys have defined in the workspace for bringing sprite 2, that is player 2, on this playground. So here I am going to define 0.3 again for this scale factor. We need to change this 1 to 2. Let's run this game and check out the output we are going to get. So this is what you will get to see, right? So that's how you can make it look more good. Let's increase the size of this player a bit more. So I'm going to make it 0.5. Let's and this one also equal to 0.5. Okay, now I think it is looking much better, right? Okay, so that's how you can replace the sprites with some layers so as to make the game look more real. Next thing that we are going to define is the edges part. We are going to define the edges for all these 4 sides. So there is a very beautiful block which you can find easily in this sprite section of toolbox. The name of this block is create edge sprites. Okay, so I am going to pick it and drop it right after the point where I have defined the code for setting the animation for the background variable bg. Okay, now let's come down, and here inside this function draw, I am going to define sprite dot bounce blocks. Okay, so when the ball will touch the top edge, it is going to bounce back. So this is the code which is going to help us in doing that. Now when the ball will touch the bottom edge, again it is going to bounce. Similarly, if you want to define the edges for left and right side also, you just have to copy these 2 lines of codes and paste it over here. What you have to do, just replace this top edge with right edge, and this one with left edge. Okay, so as you can see, this ball hasn't left this playground. and when the player will again hit this ball, it will again, the game will again finish. Right. Now if the player at any moment leave the ball again, so then the ball will leave the playground. Now let's define the code for the score part. If you want to see some score kind of thing getting reflected over here on this playground, so for doing that we can make use of the blocks which are there in the drawing section. So I'm going to make use of this text block and I'm putting it over here. Let's define a variable right on the top just before this function draw, with which we can keep a count of the score. So every time this player 1 will hit the ball, I would like the value of this score variable to increment by 1. Now for doing that we need to come down, and here inside this if loop which we have defined for the collision between player 1's racket and the ball, we can define this code. So every time the player 1's racket will hit the ball or will collide with the ball, the value of this score variable is going to get incremented by 1. Now in order to get this value reflected over here on this playground, we can come down and here we can replace this text with your score is. After that we can put a colon, and then we can make use of a concatenation operator, and then we can add the score variable over here like this. Now with this text, the value of this score is going to get reflected. Just because this we haven't closed this score in between two double inverted commas, so that is the reason this code is going to pick up the value of score instead of reading it as a text. Let's run the game and check it out. Okay, so as you can see, this score is getting reflected over here, but it is very small. In order to see it somewhere in the middle of the code, what we can do, we can change the coordinates over here. Let's now run this game and see where the text is going to get reflected on this playground. So as you can see, text is getting reflected over here, fine, and the score is also getting incremented and the score is also getting incremented every time this player 1 is hitting the ball. Right, let's reset this game. Now in order to make the appearance of this text more beautiful, what we can do, we can make use of this fill color option. I'm going to put it just below this ball dot bounce block, and let's get the score reflected in black color. With the help of this block, you can control the font color. You can control the forecolor of this text. When you'll run this game now, the score is going to get reflected in black color. Right. Now let's increase the size of the font of this text. So for doing that, you can make use of text size block, and let's replace this 12 with 23. When you will run this game, this is how the score is going to appear on the playground. Right. Okay, let's reset this game again. Now if you want to play with the text font property of this text, there is a very beautiful block available to us over here in this drawing section of toolbox, the name of which is text font. Let's bring it and put it right below this text size property, and I'm going to change it to Times New Roman. Let's run the game and see what is the output we are going to get. So see, the font has changed from Arial to Times New Roman. Okay, so that's how you can play with the font of this text. Let's talk about how a player at any point of time can reset this tennis player game. Okay, when the player will press the R key, Now what should happen? So resetting the game means you want to bring the game back to its initial state. Now what is the initial state? The ball was here at this point, okay, and the score was equal to 0, right? And the players are here. Fine. So what we can do, we can first give 0 to this score variable. So when the player will hit this R button for resetting the game, the score will become 0. First thing is that. Second thing is, where is the ball starting from? From wherever the ball is coming, I would like to see the ball coming again from that particular point. So the ball is coming from this point, 200 by 200. So what we can do, we can initialize the ball.x component to 200, and we can do the same thing for this ball.y component also. And let's copy these two lines of code and use them for player 1 and player 2 as well. So what was the initial position of player 1? It is 313 and 332. So 313, player 1, it is 313, and this one is 332 for player. Similarly for player 2.x, the coordinate are 266 and 50, right? So let's write down 266 over here and 50 over here. Let's replace this ball with player 2. Now let's run this game. After some time I am going to press R button for resetting the game. Let's see whether we'll be able to reset the game with these lines of code we have defined in the workspace or not. Okay, so I'm going to press R now. Okay, I'm done with pressing R. As you can see, the score moved to 0. Okay, and the players are there at their initial position where they were at the starting of the game, right? So that's how you can reset this tennis game. Now let's define the code for the game over part. So for that, what we can do, we can come on this control section and let's make use of this if loop again. I'm going to put it right at the bottom. Fine. Now when the score will become, let's say, greater than 5, I would like to see a white background. So for doing that, we can make use of this background color property. I'm going to put it inside this if loop, and on this background, white background, I would like to see a text getting reflected, which is game over, right? So for doing that, we guys can make use of this text block. I'm going to put it inside this if loop, and here I'm going to write down game over. Okay, I would like to see it somewhere in the middle, so that's the reason I need to change the coordinates to 1. Let's make it 200 and 200. Now let's define a font size also for this text. So for that, we can make use of this text size property. I'm going to put it again inside this if loop. Let's replace this 12 with 34. Now when you'll run this game, let's see what is going to happen when the score will become greater than 5. So this is what you are going to see. Okay, game over. Right, now if you want to see it somewhere in the middle, you can of course change the coordinates. So I'm changing it to 160. Okay, so that's what you are going to see. It's game over, right? And it is getting reflected right in the middle. But we are still able to hear some noises from the background. Why? Because the game is still on. How can we get rid of this error? We can stop the ball at a certain point, right? So how can we stop the ball from moving on this tennis court, we can copy these two lines of code first and we can place them over here. Now I'm going to make use of these two components also. Let's replace this sprite with ball. Now I am going to assign 0 velocity to both velocity y and velocity x components of the ball in order to stop the ball at this point. Okay, so when the score will become greater than 5, what will happen? The ball will go on its initial position. Okay, whatever the position of ball was when the user started the game, okay, it will go there at that point and the velocity of the ball will become 0. Let's run this game and see what is the output we are going to get. Okay, so the score is 5 right now. Now as you can notice, we are not able to hear those sounds anymore. Right, now let's press R and start the game again. When the user will press R, this is what he's going to come across. Now he will be able to see both the players on this playground. He will be able to see the ball also. But why the ball is not moving? It's because the velocity of this ball is 0. Right. Now in order to make this ball move with certain velocity, what we can do, as soon as the user will press the R key for resetting the game, impart some velocity on both x-axis and y-axis. Okay, what was the velocity with which it was moving? So initially it was moving with this velocity 3. Let's replace this 0 with 3 and this one also I'm going to replace with 3. Let's run this game and see what is the output we are going to get. Okay, so game is over. Now let's press the R key and reset the game and check out whether we'll be able to play the game again or not. Whether we'll be able to see the ball moving on the tennis court or not. Okay, so I'm able to see this ball moving and I'm able to play this game again, and as you can see, every time I will press the R key, now I will be able to reset the game and make it go back on its initial state. Right, so this way you can make this tennis game more interactive and more interesting for the user. Thank you very much for watching this video. Have a great day. God bless you all and bye bye. Take care.